Hey y'all, my kindergarten class has given me another haircut this year. I have not had my haircut since June 1st of 2021. My kindergarten class cut it last time. They are going to cut it again. A different group of kindergartners are going to cut it again the last week of school, and we're doing so to raise money for the San Antonio Food Bank. So if you can afford to donate and you are interested, that is the link. There's pictures of last year's haircut, including kids holding up chunks of my hair like scalps, which is probably not a good thing, but they were doing it in the picture anyways. Proudly holding up big chunks of my hair. But anyways, thanks. On to this video. Hello, my name is Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, currently ranking and reviewing the 26 Frank Zappa tours that I'm calling tours. Starting in number 26, heading to number 1. We are now on number 4. Feel like this should be higher, man, but like closer to number 1. But I'm sticking with this. I mean, you know what it is. Winter 78. It's in the title. It's right there, right? Man, I absolutely love this tour. But I recognize justifying why it's 4 and not higher is that there are 3 other tours. And that these last 4 tours, they all provide something different. This one is my comfort food tour. This is the one that just, for various reasons, just is like always, always, always enjoyable. Always just good in a very comforting way. One of the tours in the other, and that remains in the top 3, is like the edgy, kind of like a little more aggressive energy type tour. One of them is the chaos tour, and then the other one is sort of a better version of this, of Winter 78, essentially. But when I got into tape trading way back in like 96, I think was when I started tape trading. It was after Garcia had passed away, so maybe late 95. So after Garcia passed away, I had all these Grateful Dead tapes. I had taken way too many of them with me from Berkeley to Texas when I moved to Texas. And then somehow I did Fish Summer Tour in 94 and 95. I was no longer into the Dead as much by that point, at least their live stuff. And on both tours, I drove and acquired way too many more Grateful Dead tapes that were both given to me and somebody left in my car. Somebody I gave a ride to for several shows left like one of those 48 case cassette tape holders that he carried with him. He had a backpack and a thing of Grateful Dead tapes. Excellent shows. But he just left it in the car after a show. We never saw the guy again. So who knows? But I have his tapes. Or I did. But anyways, after Garcia died, I realized I went through all the tapes and I had duplicates, sometimes triplicates of some because of the way I had acquired them. And then others I just didn't listen to. And so I bought a magazine, Gray Areas, which was like an East Coast kind of countercultural publication. And there was an ad in the back. They had like a want ad type thing. And some guy send him a self-addressed stamp envelope. He'd send you a list of like his tapes. He had Dead tapes. He had a bunch of different bands. And he was looking for more specifically Dead. I had a lot of Dead. Well, he had Zappa tapes, and I decided I was going to do like a 5-tape trade to start off with, and one of the 5 tapes, or 2 of the 5 tapes, was 2/15/78, Berlin, Germany. The show, which, and I might have known this at the time, but I did not know it when I got this tape. This is where Rat Tamago comes from on Shake Your Booty and where the Shake Your Booty Tango comes from. And it is a excellent sounding tape. So when I got my tapes back from this guy, we traded. I got these 5 Zappa tapes from him. I think it was 278s, 274s, and then I think it was a random 68 show was in there. 68? Yeah, that 68 show was in there. This was the very first one I put on, 2/15/78. And it sounded great. It was just an absolutely amazing show, amazing guitar solos. And I simply, when I started trading after that, there were a lot of really good February 78 shows, and those were the ones I got first. So I've been listening to those literally longer than I've listened to any other tour, just because this was the first tour I really, really sought out tapes and found amazing performances on. And that is why it sits at number 4. It probably should be higher. I feel like I'm like cheating on it by putting it at number 4. This doesn't feel right. The band members, Frank Zappa on guitar and vocals, Terry Bozzio on drums. He is the longest standing member with the band at this point, been there since the Bongo Fury tour, which was just number 5 on this list. Patrick O'Hearn on bass, he's been there since Fall 76. For the first time starting on Fall 77, and they would all continue on to the following tour. Ed Mann on percussion and mystery words, Tommy Mars on keyboards and singing envelopes, Peter Wolf on keyboards. And for his second and last tour, he started in Fall 77. This would be his last tour before he would go join David Bowie, of all things. Adrian Belew on very well played guitar. He gets a nice solo in Flakes, nice solo in Wild Love, does some nice sort of atmospherics and like Elephant Talk kind of Belew type stuff and like Muffin Man and City and different songs. And Adrian Belew and amazing vocals. So amazing band. You can hear this band quite a number of places in the Zappa catalog. The Zappa Family Trust released a release called Hammersmith Odeon. This was my number 8 of the top 55 of all the post-Zappa passing away releases. Not a complete show, but they took the 4 performances in London, the 3 that opened the tour and the 1 that closed the tour, and they compiled 3 discs that essentially mimic, what was the standard set list for this tour. This tour had a set list that pretty much did not vary from night to night, except for 2 very, very obvious jumping out distinctions in February. And they pretty much mimicked that over the course of 3 discs, leaving off the 1 pair of songs, Wild Love and Yo Mama, which were played on almost every show. For some reason, they were not on this compilation, which is a travesty, because if they had put a Yo Mama from those early Hammersmith Odeon shows, those are some of the weirdest. Those are the solos where Frank and this band kind of do the 84, we're in a solo spot, do whatever you want chaos type thing, where it really was a lot different than the way O'Hearn and Bozzio usually, supported Frank during a solo. This was by far some of the more chaotic and like experimental for this band. And so it's a shame that wasn't on Hammersmith Odeon, because those would have been really good solos, or that, whichever one was picked, would have been a really good solo. You can also hear this band all over the place. They are sort of the backing band for Shake Your Booty. A lot of the live tracks, the basic tracks on Shake Your Booty are live tracks from this band with, lots of overdubs. The Rat Tamago guitar solo is from A Torture Never Stops on this tour. The Shake Your Booty tango is from A Little House I Used to Live In from this tour. Watermelon and Easter Hay off Frank Zappa Plays the Music of Frank Zappa is from this tour. Heidelberg, a Yo Mama solo on One Shot Deal. The Yo Mama solo from Shake Your Booty. White Person is a mystery word section from a King Kong from this tour. And The Torture Never Stops from You Can't Do That on Stage Volume 1 is from this tour. And Rat Tamago and The Torture Never Stops Volume 1 were my top 2 guitar solos for Frank Zappa of all time. And so, they're both from this tour. So another reason I absolutely love this tour is Frank's guitar playing. I have said in many other videos that if I had to pick the top 4 Frank Zappa tours for guitar playing, this is not one of them. And I think that's, I stand behind that as much as I love these solos. There weren't as many of them every night. There was really, you got The Torture Never Stops, which was the big showcase for me set piece. 3rd song of the night, but Frank's delivering what could be the best solo of the night. You get a City of Tiny Lights solo, which were aggressive and good, but still not where they would be in a couple years. And then you got eventually you got A Little House I Used to Live In solo, which became Shake Your Booty Tango. But the first couple weeks, maybe the first week and a half, there wasn't a solo in Little House I Used to Live In. But then you also had the Yo Mama solos in the show, which started off free-for-all-y for like a week or a couple weeks, and then you eventually got to like that plateau, that sort of free for all floating, almost chaotic vibe into that step up, into that da na 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 na. There's just that triumphant ending that the Shake Your Booty version has. So you can hear over the course of this tour Frank experimenting with this Yo Mama song and what he's going to do with the solo, and that's pretty exciting to watch that progression, because those early ones, they are definitely don't even sound like the same song, but they are so good and so interesting, and seldom are Bozio and O'Hearn in that kind of weird rhythmic environment. Like their support generally was not as chaotic as those early Yo Mamas tended to be. And then Frank would get some King Kong solos later in the tour as that went on. And then in the encores, you got your Muffin Mans, you had your Black Napkins occasionally. And then Frank also debuted over the course of this tour Deathless Horsey, in a kind of fast version of Deathless Horsey, and then Watermelon and Easter Hay. So he's also starting to think of the guitar almost in different terms, it seems, and he's writing instrumental guitar solo vehicles, and they both debut on this tour. So it's also just a very exciting time for Frank. What else about this tour? Just an amazing. Oh, also, other than Frank's solos, which again were limited in number but always excellent, everybody else gets a chance to solo. Peter Wolf gets solos in Pound for a Brown. Tommy Mars gets solos in Little House I Used to Live In. King Kong, sometimes Mars gets solos. Probably Wolf too, I think. I don't know. Baloo gets solos in Flakes and in Wild Love. O'Hearn gets solos in different places. And Mann gets solos in King Kong early on in Wild Love. Wild Love on the 77 tour was a full-on monster, like 20 plus minute thing every night with a whole bunch of everybody getting turns to solos. But it started off this way on this tour, and then as the tour went on, the everything but the Baloo solo eventually gets cut. So it's then you get the Wild Love, and then you go into the da na na the Baloo, that part, which is amazing. And then on the 77 tour, there would be a Frank Zappa guitar solo that would follow Baloo. Now you get Yo Mama in place of the 77 guitar solo, but it's essentially the same thing. You just now have the lyrics and that absolutely awesome, incredible segue when they finish Wild Love and you get that that keyboard run. It's just chilling. It's just beautiful, like absolutely perfect. Two songs on here, in fact, I would say. The Torture Never Stops this is the tour on which that song is played in its ideal platonic form. The platonic ideal, Plato, images in a cave, shadows, all that kind of stuff, right? This is the form the ultimate Torture Never Stop takes. It's not that 12 Bars Blue from 75. It's got a little more, it's essentially the same as the Zoodalures, but the Zoodalures was really like, dun, 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 oh, I'm here, by the way, here for some torture, just very kind of understated. This is like, dun, 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 walking in confidently, but not like brashly, where I think by the time it gets to the 80s, it's very much like, it's a show-stopping moment. Dun, dun, dun. Torture Never Stops is here, everybody. It definitely is like a set piece in a show. Then by 88, it has, all these other, the I Love Lucy, the Bonanza. It's got all this other craziness going on, right? But here, it's just the song. And it's played with a little more muscle. For the most part, it's played straightforward, no weirdness. The solo is always absolutely ridiculous good. The rhythm section, this is the song they came together. Like, this is their ultimate sort of moment, I think, is them and The Torture Never Stops. And Frank does have one little tweak that he adds on this tour, is after the second verse chorus-ish thing, he adds that Chattanooga Choo Choo reference where it's like dun 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 dun. They play a little part of Chattanooga Choo Choo, but they don't end it like cold and then go back into Torture Never Stops. They kind of like dun dun dun, and they like, it's like we don't even want to do this anymore. This is boring. Like they just kind of like disrespectfully fade away from it. And it's usually, I think it's Peter Wolf. Sometimes O'Hearn gets a nice bass note in there, but I think the last note Wolf plays is like a and it's just like dying sound, and it feels disrespectful to Chattanooga Choo Choo, but it feels utterly within the world of The Torture Never Stops. That's the one perfect song. I think the City of Tiny Lights on this is pretty perfect. As much as I love the intro with the guitar with Ray White from the previous, when Ray White was in the band, as much as I love the extended endings and the weird vocal stuff from like 82, as much as I love the horns, as much as I like guitar solos from other tours better, I really think the sound of this City of Tiny Lights, that's just keyboard driven with Bozio just keeping that rhythm propelling forward. I think Blue's vocals are just straightforward. They're just perfect Blue vocals. And the guitar solos are not over the top greatness, but you don't need that after the Torture and with like Yo Mama coming. You just need like a solid, really solid rock solo. I think those are almost perfect. And I think the Yo Mamas are perfect. Like, I did say that there was a 78 Yo Mama that might be the best Yo Mama guitar solo Frank ever played. But I do think night for night for night, this vibe of having it follow Wild Love, the Wild Love into Yo Mama segue is one of the things that makes it more powerful for me. And just knowing the progress Frank makes from the beginning, those early shows, to where Yo Mama would end up is also just part of the thrill. Knowing, just catching him in different stages of development over the course of the tour. So yeah, those were all great moments. What else? This is the set list for the Hammersmith Odeon CD set. I'm going to quickly run through that because I do also think this has the perfect set list. I mentioned this in 77. But this is better than 77 because 77 starts off with this show's second song, Peaches in Regalia. Then you get Torture, you get the same set. This one starts off with Dancin' Fool. They do the Purple Lagoon intro. Frank introduces the band. Then they have Dancin' Fool, which is a new song, unreleased. Audience members are not going to know it. And I think this version, it's performed slower than any other version. It seems to be performed with more sincerity, for however much sincerity Dancin' Fool could have. It just seems to be a more fully realized song and not something we're going to play really fast and everybody knows it. Yay, let's get it over with, which is what I think other performances feel like. I think this is the best Dancing Fool. And I think the introduction of that before Peaches makes Peaches better, makes the show better, just makes the entire vibe way more just like, because imagine you're at the show and you Dancing Fool. It's like, what, 3.5 minutes long, right? You don't know it, but it's a fun song. And then they go into Peaches with this keyboard arrangement. There's no horns at all up there, and they're playing this keyboard version of it, but it's still ridiculous. And then, just perfect. And then that goes into the Torture Never Stops, epic song. You probably know it from Zoodalures, the album, but this version is so much better. Trying to Grow a Chin, a rock song, and it's sung by the drummer. City of Tiny Lights, another pretty rocky song. Now it's sung by the rhythm guitar player. Then you get Baby Snakes, which is just silly, but it's short. And then you get Pound for a Brown, an Uncle Meat song, and Peter Wolf's giving you an amazing solo. Things are good. And then Frank conducts the band for a little bit. It gets crazy. Then you go into I Have Been in You. Frank's talking a lot, and he's talking a lot about a teenage girl's bedroom, which, I could do without. But there's a point. Peter Frampton, I'm in You. Then we get the song I Have Been in You, which I think is a much better song than Bobby Brown. Bobby Brown is also on this CD because they have it all. But Bobby Brown usually appeared in this spot on the earlier tour. It's now I Have Been in You is now in this spot, or at least Bobby Brown was there for a while. But now we have I Have Been in You sneaks in this spot. I think it's a better song than Bobby Brown, but I don't like the introductory speech as much. We get Flakes with the awesome Blue solo instead of the I Am a Moron, This Is My Wife lyrical part. That's just an instrumental jam at the end. Broken Heart. So now that was your typical early set list. Now we're getting into where the CD goes, but this is generally the order the songs would come in, like the groupings they would come in. Some shows were shorter, some shows were longer. You get a Flakes, a Broken Hearts Are for Assholes, a Punky's Whips, Titties and Beer, which almost seem to have very little improv in the middle. Frank didn't seem to have much interest this tour. Bozio seems to try a couple times. Black Page #2, Jones Crusher, Little House I Used to Live In, which did not have a Frank guitar solo early, but eventually it did have a guitar solo, and then that guitar solo eventually became essentially the Shake Your Booty Tango, so that became the spot where the tango would start and Frank would play. One of those was released on Shake Your Booty. Dong Work for Yuta, Bobby Brown, Envelopes with lyrics, Tommy Marr singing those. Drum solo by Bozio, Disco Boy. Things would get weird here, or maybe they would end. Punky's Whips was dropped early in the tour. That didn't get played that often. Didn't make it very far in the tour. Going back to Punky's Whips. And then your standard encore numbers, Dynamo Hum, Camarillo Brillo, Muffin Man, Black Napkin, San Bernardino, those could be played. Watermelon and Easter Egg was typically an encore number. But also, other things that I missed on this tour, I don't think there was much I missed. Uncle Meat popped up once. Ed Mann played it in a solo in King Kong, and then a couple nights later, the entire band played it. So almost like Frank was like, okay, I'll hear you. I'll take that challenge. Two shows which kind of have strange set lists. February 17th and February 19th. The 19th I don't have a complete tape of. I just have it as filler on certain tapes, and it's not really good sounding at all. The 17th, though, it's a late show, and so Frank just kind of cuts the set list in half and puts the second half first. So it opens up with Titties and Beer, runs through a lot of the same songs, and then after Disco Boy, which would sometimes be like a set closer, they go into Dancing Fool, Peaches, The Torture Never Stops, and then they play encores. Or they play San Bernardino. They do that again on the 19th, or at least the set lists that are out there. But at that end, they throw in an Uncle Meat, which is a nice little treat. And then I think that's it. Otherwise, it's that same sort of thing. But it sounds horrible. But that's it, I think, for this tour. I absolutely love it. The shows I listen to the most are from February. That 2/15/78 is just a masterpiece. 2/7/78 is a really good show from Paris that sounds really strong. That's the one that has the Uncle Meat in the King Kong in it. Has the Uncle Meat in King Kong. 2/18/78 has a really good, just a really, really good sound quality show. May like an A-. But it has some secret word usage, some ABBA references, Fernando. And then 2/25/78, I think that's the one that the something comes from this, right? Doesn't 225 might be where White Person comes from? But anyways, this is another really excellent sounding show. It's got a King Kong with a guitar solo on it. But that's about it. I'm going to stop rambling about this tour. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What I was right, what I was wrong about, all that stuff. I know you will. I trust you. And peace, all that stuff. Subscribe. Take care.